Hey, what's up guys? So in this video I want to go ahead and show you the Escort ZW5 install that I've got installed here. So if we take a closer look at the grill, you'll see the heads installed. We've got head 1 right there and head 2 right there. I also want to pop open the hood. We'll take a closer look at the install under the hood, which is where the majority of the system is. The Max 360C is installed right there in the windshield, and we'll also take a look at the in-car wiring that we have down in there. All right, now, so taking a closer look at the heads that we've got installed right here, they're just above my fake plate that I've got installed right there for videos. So we've got head number 1 and head number 2. You can see we've still got the residue from the tape right there. One thing that's kind of confusing a lot of times is the heads, if you look at them, relative to the grill itself, it's not straight, it's kind of angled, and that's always one of the confusing things about installing these heads, is it's tough to get it just by eyesight to make sure they're straight. So for that reason, I've got a nice long straight edge, and as you can see, when we align it to this, everything looks just fine. So it's aligned on this end, and it's also aligned on that end, and so we're good to go as far as making sure they're nice and straight. Something I am a little bit concerned about is if you take a closer look at the head, you can see it's recessed a little bit, and there's also some chrome I've got right here in the grill, and I'm kind of wondering how much that's going to impact things. And so I'd like to do some testing and just ensure that they're effective. You know, I'm not getting any sort of reflections from the transmitter here back into the receiver there. And if so, I'll need to move the heads a little bit farther forward. And it's always a lot of times just a trade-off with aesthetics, moving the heads farther forward versus having them pushed back, and maybe having the car affect something. So that's something I want to take a look at with testing. Now with the hood popped, we can go ahead and take a look at the install for the system. So we've got the heads 1 and 2. The cables for those run up this way and then along the side of the car, and the whole system is pretty much packed in here. So it's wired into the battery, which I'll show you in just a second, and the majority of the system, you can see we've got the heads right there, the cables for them plug in right there, and I'll dig them out here in just a second. Majority of the system is actually tucked down here next to the battery, and let's actually take a look at how it wires up. So if we take a look at the battery contacts, that's where I put the power connectors. They make it really easy. So this is the clamp that connects onto the positive terminal of the battery. I just unscrewed this screw right here so I can, loosen the clamp effectively, and put the positive cable right there, and then just screwed this back into place. The negative one is right here, unscrewed this, and you can see it's just connected like this to the negative terminal. And then that is going to run to this box. This is the Zw5 controller. And basically, if you take a look here on the back of it, the reason I have it installed this way is there's a USB port right there. So whenever I need to update the jammers, I can just plug it in right here. I'll have to bring my computer out, and I'll plug it into this, update the jammers, and that's how you keep them up to date. And then for day-to-day driving, there's a little rubber cover here. You just cover it like that. So for weather sealing and dust and all that, keeps it protected. All right, so we've got the rest of the system pulled out here. This is the box that we were just looking at, the wireless box. So the wireless communication goes from here into the rest of the car. Now this is going to wire back into the bridge box right here. You can see it's got a cable for interface. So that is this cable right here plugs into the wireless box. Now the bridge box is also what the laser jammer heads run into. So you can see we've got cables 1 and 2. So 1 and 2, that is these ones right here. These are the push connectors for the laser jammer heads themselves. Pretty much you just, one head is the jammer, the other side is the bridge box. You just push them together, and then it makes this watertight seal in case of rain or debris or anything. And then we've also got ports 3 and 4, which are unused with the ZW5, and so they come with these kind of rubber caps. You could take them off and plug in the other heads, but they don't recommend doing it. There's not enough power in the whole system to power the 4 heads plus that box there. So that's pretty much it for the under the hood stuff. It's pretty straightforward, and then you can see I've got everything kind of zip tied just for cleanliness, and then I've got it all stuffed down. So we'll stuff it back in and take a look at the rest of the car. Now moving on to the interior of the car, up here at the top we've got the Escort Max 360C, and one of my favorite things about the install is that this pretty much does everything in the cabin. So the detector, or well, the jammers plug into this guy here, and what's nice about this is once you have it installed, there's not a bunch of other stuff that you install in the cabin. Typically there would be like a CPU that you'd have to install maybe somewhere in the center console. Then you've got a speaker to install, a GPS antenna that you'd have to install somewhere, a display and a controller. With this one, pretty much everything goes right there into the detector. Now I also have the hardwire cable right here. You can see we've got the cable that runs down here into the fuse box for it to all wire into. And so we have a secondary mute button and a JTK button. I can double press this, or on the detector at the very top of it, I can double press it there, and it will disable the jammers. Now as far as the wiring, it's pretty straightforward. So we're tapped into the fuse box here with an ATA circuit. We've got our ground over there. You can see we've got some screws. They tap into the chassis of the vehicle. We've got the wireless tube. You can see this guy right there. That's where the wireless communication is all being handled, and this is the tube that communicates to the box in the engine bay, the one with the USB port on the back, and that's how the wireless communication aspect works. And then it's otherwise pretty straightforward. You can see we've got the cable that runs up here and then to the box that I showed you just a second ago. And that's pretty much it to the install. The only weird thing that I found so far is this box where I've installed it. You know, I could always maybe drill a hole or install into this. She wasn't really wanting that. She wanted it here on the left side of the vehicle, and I've noticed if I'm driving the car, sometimes when I'm getting in and out of the car, my knee might actually hit this box and knock it off. I've got it attached with double stick tape, and I'm considering replacing it with some Velcro, so when it gets knocked off, I can attach it more easily. Double stick tape doesn't do a very good job if you keep disconnecting and reconnecting. If it was up to me, I would probably install it over here on this side, the driver's side, where my right knee would be, but she prefers it here on the left side, so that's where I've got it installed, and since it's her car, she's the one that's driving it. She's shorter than I am, so her knee's farther back, so it's not really an issue, and it's easier for her to reach there, so that's why I've got it installed there. But otherwise, pretty straightforward. I like the setup here with the detector up there, and then the remote switch right there, and then the install was really straightforward. Really simple here, just power and ground, and then, you know, run the cable, of course, up here, and then boom, into the radar detector, and then you've got the simple install in the engine bay. It's definitely the easiest one that I've installed. I've done a number of different jammers, stingers, ALPs, different escorts, like the Max CI and stuff, but the ZW5 is definitely the easiest one that I've done. I wish it supported multiple heads, and I wish there was like an auto JTK, and, you know, I wish there was some usability improvements. But in terms of the wireless capability, I think that's pretty awesome. And I like the simplicity of the install here in the car. I think those are probably some of its best attributes. If you're looking for something, especially if you're going to be doing it yourself and you're not maybe super handy with installs, this is the easiest one that I've seen, and I think that's probably one of its best aspects. So anyway, yeah, there you go. There's a look at the ZW5.